You're watching One American News Network.
California is certainly reopening, but not in the way any of us wanted. As the state announced on Saturday, 76,000 inmates will be released early because of good behavior, even as 63,000 of them are serving time for committing violent crimes. In a statement, California's Office of Administrative Law spokeswoman Dana Simas declared, quote, "The goal is to increase incentives for the incarcerated population to practice good behavior and follow the rules while serving their time and participate in rehabilitative and educational programs which will lead to safer prisons." Ah, yes, that's what we all want. Safer prisons, not safer streets. And take a look at this breakdown. More than 63,000 inmates convicted of violent crimes will be eligible for good behavior credits that shorten their sentences by 1/3 instead of the 1/5 that had been in place since 2017. That includes nearly 20,000 inmates who are serving life sentences with the possibility of parole. Also, quote, more than 10,000 prisoners convicted of a second serious but nonviolent offense under the state's 3 strikes law will be eligible for release after serving half their sentences. That's an increase from the current time served credit of 1/3 of their sentence. And on top of that, quote, the same increased release time will apply to nearly 2,900 nonviolent third strikers. And finally, all minimum security inmates in work camps, including those in firefighting camps, will be eligible for the same month of earlier release for every month they spend in the camp, regardless of the severity of their crime. So as the Democrats seem to like to treat blue states as case studies before implementing similar policies on the national level, what does this mean for the people of California and America? Well, let's ask former U.S. Navy officer and retired New Jersey Police Lieutenant Steve Rogers as he joins us now. Steve, isn't it nice? We're going to have safer prisons, but what about our streets?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the recidivism rate is about 85% right now. So the streets are going to become chaotic. Look, these individuals, especially these felons that are going to be leaving these prisons, no jobs, no money, no place to live. So they're going to be camping out in a neighborhood near you. And I've got to tell you that in the 38 years I've been involved in law enforcement, most people who are released from prison after they complete their full sentence are back in prison very, very shortly thereafter. The tragedy of this is how many people are going to die on our streets as a result of these violent felons being released.
You're so right. There's no plan. Aren't they nice? They're releasing these inmates, but where do they go? And you're so right. They act like, oh, they're going to go home. But where are their homes? In a lot of places, in a lot of cases, they've been in prison for years. These are life sentences that we're talking about. And California is not in a good place, especially during COVID-19. People have lost businesses. It's hard to find work right now. So where are they going to go? We're going to start paying for them just as we've been giving them stimulus checks in prison?
Well, look, there's another question that needs to be answered. What about the victims of these felons? What about those who were convicted of rape, of sexual assault, of robbery, of burglary? This is a living nightmare for individuals who were victimized by these felons. And to answer your question, where they're going to go? Well, they're going to go where they normally go, out on the streets. This is why your crime rate is spiking all over the country. Now, keep in mind, they will find a home. They will find acceptance, and that's in these very violent criminal gangs. Therein lies the problem with this whole scenario. They are going to be accepted by violent criminal gangs, and they're going to go out on the streets and do a lot of damage.
And California is out of control already, as is other states, just with immigration. You already have the catch and release where you have violent illegal immigrants coming across our border. No way to track them. But just this weekend in San Diego, there was a boat that capsized where it was a human smuggling operation. 3 people drowned, dozens were injured. It's like, what about all of these human smugglers going on? What about the drug traffickers? We have a serious crime problem, and the Democrats don't seem to have any solution except abolish the police and abolish ICE.
Well, you're exactly right. While the Democrat socialists are defunding and depleting our police forces, they're increasing the membership, if you will, of criminal gangs, of criminal organizations. It's got to stop, and the only way it stops if the people of this country smarten up and say enough is enough. And let me add this one more thing: this big push for making police officers now in a position where they will be sued, qualified immunity, maybe part of the solution to this problem is to get rid of the immunity of these judges and these politicians passing these laws. Let them be personally responsible for what is going to happen out on our streets. And you know what? You're going to see a different song is going to be sung from these individuals.
You're so right. There's no accountability. There's no consequences for these leaders that inflict such damage on communities and people's lives. These are people's lives, Americans' lives in many cases, that are going to be injured by these laws, but they just don't seem to care. We have a homelessness problem. All of these problems they just keep creating, but the goal again is voting, right? That's always their end goal. They want to give voting rights to felons, so this is probably going to help expand their base even more.
Well, it will, but there are things we can do. And I've said this over and over again. I'm one of those people who are not ashamed to say I believe in the power of prayer, but we must pray and we must put our faith to work. Putting your faith to work is getting out and voting and supporting candidates who are going to do what's right for the people, not for a political agenda.
Amen. Especially as we have the National Day of Prayer coming up. It's so important to celebrate, but for Christians and for people of faith everywhere, every day is a day of prayer. And every day is a day of action because we're here for a reason. And we have to have our voices be heard. So what do you think in the meantime? I know a lot of times people think we just have to wait till the polls next year. What do you think in the meantime people can do besides writing their Congress people in terms of having their voices still heard and be a part of our democracy?
Well, it's very simple. It all starts locally. Ronald Reagan said it all starts in the dining room, right at the dining room table. Get involved locally. Get involved in changing your school boards, your city councils, your mayor offices. A lot of elections are going to happen before 2022 congressional election. We're talking about state legislatures. Get involved. Get Republican governors elected. Then you're going to see action, and it'll be action of the people, by the people, and for the people.
We have to see a return to that. The establishment, we can't do that anymore. They just mess everything up and they never listen to the people. They tell us what to do and they never listen to us. So hopefully people will get motivated, not only get out and vote, but also run for office because the people should have a voice in their government. And with criminals on the streets and everything that's happening with the way the Democrats are turning this country, I know you're also in a blue state. It's so sad to see it because we know they want to take this nationally and we have to be able to stop it before then. Steve, thank you for spreading the good word, and God bless you on your efforts there for putting your faith at work, because that's where it really makes a difference.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
And still to come on The Real Story.